Hi again everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another speed build video in The Sims 4. Hope you're all having the most amazing day ever so far and thank you so much for joining me here today. We are building a base game only, yes, base game only family home that has 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and is located on a 30 by 30 lot in Newcrest. So I'm very excited to be able to share this with you all. In my previous speed build I did talk a little bit more about how I wanted to do a base game only build because it feels like it's been a while since I've done one. It's been at least 4 or 5 months, so I was long overdue. I was working from a reference image which I found on Pinterest. I will pop it on screen for you now so that you can see what we're aiming towards. I took some creative liberties here and there just because the house itself on the image looks fantastic, but obviously trying to translate that into The Sims is a whole different story. So absolutely love the shape of this house. We've got this beautiful sort of structure on the outside, this sort of L shape I suppose you could say, and beautiful like pop out bits. There's a lovely chimney breast here and I really like this house. I've been feeling so uninspired lately. I don't know whether this is just like something that I'm going through, but it's taking quite a lot for me to actually put builds out and find something that sparks some sort of creative something in me for me to actually start a build. So when I find an image that sparks that interest, it definitely excites me. So working on the exterior structure here, as you can see, we are sticking at the moment pretty rigidly to the reference image. Now, what I end up doing is this area that we're working on here, I end up putting like a bump out just to make it look a little bit more interesting and a little bit less flat. As I don't know if you can remember the reference image, I put it on screen just, 30, 40, 50 seconds ago. But that had this exact shape and I thought it looked fantastic on the reference image. In The Sims, for me, it just wasn't translating and I couldn't make it work. So I decided to add a little bump out. I can't remember when I do that, but I know I do it on camera. There's I don't want to say there's a lot of footage that I've cut out of the video, but there's a lot of unnecessary footage that I've cut out of the video, such as certain landscaping pieces and the bathrooms being decorated and some tweaks I've made to the exterior. Nothing you're missing out on is integral for the actual build. However, I do like to tell you all when I've cut footage out of a build because I like to be completely transparent and completely honest. So the exterior structure is coming together really nicely. As you can see, I do play around with some landscaping pieces. The flower boxes at the moment are red. They end up being white. I wanted like pops of color in this, and then I realized I was like, right, no, it doesn't necessarily need to be like that. I definitely wanted this like more muted exterior, more sort of sophisticated chic exterior, whilst maintaining this sort of lovely family friendly suburban vibe. And I really like this house actually, and I do really like challenging myself with base game only builds because obviously with base game only you are restricted. I'm not going to sit here and say you're not restricted. Of course you are. It's base game only. However, there are certain rooms and certain elements of a build that I find easier than others. So for example, I find doing the exterior very easy with base game. I think we've got some fantastic landscaping items. We've got some lovely paneling, some brickwork, the roofing, like all the textures really nice. Kitchens I find relatively easy to put together, as well as bedrooms, particularly children's bedrooms. Bathrooms are a doddle. Living rooms, not my forte with base game, unfortunately. And I do think that's really the only room that I genuinely struggled with. And I also forgot to tell you all as well that I did include a playroom in this build as well, so it's huge. When we get onto the interior, you'll see just how big this build is. So we've got 4 large bedrooms, we've got 4 bathrooms. We've got like a kitchen dining, we've got a separate dining room, a living room, a playroom. Honestly, this house has it all. It really has it all. Anyway, this is the bump out that I was referring to earlier on in the voiceover, and I just think it adds a little bit. I think it really finishes the entire structure off, and I just think it works so much better with this little bump out. And it can be, more often than not, something really simple, like a really quick fix that can turn a build from that doesn't look quite right to I've nailed it. Like, that looks perfect. And this was one of those situations where I'm building along and I kind of like it. You know, it's slightly different from what I'm used to doing and it's slightly out of my comfort zone, whatever. But I wasn't in love with it yet. The minute I added this bump out and started adding more to the landscaping, I was like, this is it right here. I love this house. So I really hope you all agree. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below what you think of this build. Do you want to see me do more base game only homes on the channel? Do you want to see me, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think of the challenge? Yes, challenge myself. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, yeah, challenge myself. Do you want to see more pack restricted builds? So for example, we could do base game with high school years, or base game with growing together, or base game with jungle adventure, something like that. Like, if you want to see more of that on the channel as well, then drop me some comments down below, drop me some ideas below, and I will do my best to fulfill them. Anyway, we do move on to the interior in just a moment, and we do begin with laying out the bottom floor plan. Look at the size of this house. I don't know why I was thinking when I built this house. Clearly I wasn't thinking, and I have mentioned this once or twice before in the channel, where I'll just do an exterior and I'll be like, oh, this looks really nice, yeah, let's just leave it, and then I forget I have to do the interior. This was one of those times. This was definitely one of those times where I'm thinking, okay, the exterior is great, and then the interior just, wow, it really, the ground floor, upper floor is perfectly fine. We've got 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms up there. This floor, on the other hand, complete and utter challenge. It was, the floor plan's a little bit all over the place, and it kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't at the same time, but that's okay. So we do start with the kitchen. Now, I would like to point out that this is one of these things that I do change off camera. So the only thing that I actually change off camera is the swatch of the cabinets, because whilst I really like this sort of warm chestnut wood, I really like it. It wasn't really the vibe that I wanted for this particular house. I have used these cabinets in the past and they've done me well. I love them very much, but for this build in particular, it just wasn't the vibe that I was going for. So I do end up going for like a darker, more rich wood tone, and I just think it works better with the whole sort of vibe of the house. And so you'll notice in the screenshots at the end where I sort of showcase the build and show you each room play by play, you'll notice that the kitchen does change ever so slightly, but I did do that off camera because I did the exterior, then I did the kitchen, then I stepped away, and then the following day I came back and did some more rooms on the ground floor, and then I came back the following day. So I did this build over 3 days. And it took me a little while to get the overall vibe of the house, and it's very strange that I started with the kitchen, because more often than not I'll start with the living room. With this particular house, I felt that starting with the kitchen just made so much more sense, and I really like the kitchen. I like the layout. I like this colour scheme. There's nothing wrong with the colour scheme that I've currently got here. It's just that I think it just didn't really match the exterior of the house. Does that even make sense? Probably not, because in real life, how often does like the exterior of a build match the interior? You know, it doesn't. But in The Sims, I like it to be cohesive. I like it to be I like it to flow. That's the word I'm looking for. I like it to flow, and it just wasn't flowing. So I just switch out some swatches here and there in the kitchen. I don't actually change any of the items. It's just the swatches of the items. So as you can see, we do have a separate sort of, I say separate, like dining area, and then in the room to the left here we have a separate dining room with a larger table. So my sort of idea why can I not think of the words today? My idea for this family was that there are 8 Sims living in this house. So we've got the parents, we've got an infant or a newborn, along with 2 grandparents, and then 2 children and a teen. Yes, so there's 8 Sims altogether in this house. So we're at full capacity, and my sort of idea was that like maybe on, you know, Winterfest or for like Spooky Day, they like to gather in the more formal dining room and actually eat together. So I wanted to make sure that if they wanted to, the entire family could actually sit down and have a meal together. But if they don't want to, then they've got, you know, like the kids might be sitting at the breakfast table or on the island eating their breakfast before school, and the parents might be getting ready to go to work. That was the sort of idea that I had in my head, but there's plenty of room for everyone. I would also like to note as well with this build is play tested thoroughly, and it's very, gameplay friendly. And the reason that I say that is because the rooms themselves are very spaced out, they're very large, they're not overly cluttered, because I think there's only so much you can do with base game anyway, but I definitely wanted this house to be a little bit more accessible to more people and be more gameplay friendly than some of my other builds. I think some of my builds are more sort of they sort of tone the clutter down. Some of them I go clutter mad. Like, there's just some of my builds, and it tends to be the smaller ones randomly, not the larger ones, where you can put in those intricate details. But with this house, yes, it's very open, it's fantastic for gameplay, and especially if you're a new simmer and you've just downloaded the Sims 4 base game for free and you're looking for a house for your Sims to live in, this is ideal. This is a house that they can grow into. My sort of idea for this house is that it's a generation style house. I'm still not entirely sure what I'm actually going to be calling the video on my YouTube channel. I'm sort of mulling some ideas over, but it's a generations base game house. It can house 8 Sims for each life stage in the game. So I suppose that's exactly what a generations house is. So I suppose that's what we might have to call it. Anyway, we are now working on the living room, which is probably one of my least favourite rooms in the house. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. It's just that I struggled a little bit because there's no windows in here. First and foremost, I don't know if you've picked up on that. There's no windows here. That would drive me insane if if this was my house in real life. I don't know how I'd cope. Luckily, it's The Sims, and you can sort of take creative liberties here and there and sort of put that to one side. But the way that the floor plan was working out, I don't know. It was a little bit strange. Like, the grandparents' room is off the kitchen, and then the main bedroom is off. What room do we end up doing there? Oh, we'll have to work it out as we go along, because I genuinely can't remember. Anyway, the living room came together quite quickly because I sort of knew what I wanted to do. There's like a little area here where, like I said before, there's like 2 child Sims in this house is what I envisioned. And there's like a little area here where they can grab a book or do their homework in the corner, and they can maybe shout over to the parents like, I need your help or whatever. It's just like a really, really sweet idea. So I really like it. I did struggle with a couple of things with this build, with it being base game only, and one of the things that I was struggling with was artwork for the wall. It made me realise that we are very much lacking in that department with the base game. It made me realise that we don't have many sofas, love seats or chairs. They need an overhaul. Rugs, I think, need an overhaul in the base game. We need new fireplaces, new bookshelves, some new mirrors that don't hang really, really high up on the wall, stuff like that. I think that was definitely highlighted to me while I was doing this build. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for some base game patches for the rest of the year that maybe going to add some additional items. Anyway, this is the room that I envisioned as the grandparents' room. So it's entirely up to you what you want to do with this. You can either have one grandparent living here, you can have both grandparents living here, you could have no grandparents living here. It's entirely up to you. You might want to change this into a study, or I don't know, like, what else could you do with this room? It's a very large size, yet again, fantastic for gameplay. There's a chess table in here, along with a chest of drawers, a chair in the corner. They've got their own bathroom. It's such a sizable house, and I was so surprised, as I said, when I got into this house, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. I do this to myself every time as well. I don't plan ahead. I just do the exterior and I'm like, woohoo! Again, I know I've talked about this already. I'd just like to point that out, but I definitely forget that I have to do the interior of some of these houses. Anyway, I think I might end up doing like a smaller house next time, just as like a little sneak peek, or a little, like, not sneak peek, what am I looking for? Like a space filler for myself, just because when I do a build like this, it tends to suck quite a lot of energy out of me. So I'll maybe do an apartment or a smaller build next, or some sort of build challenge. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, this is the parents' room. This is the main bedroom of the house. It has an ensuite. It's a huge room. And so my sort of idea and plan for this was that they had an infant in this room, and because there's the space, and again, with it being like a generational style house, I wanted to cater for all the ages in the family, and I just think it works so well. So they've got like their own little corner of the room, and you know, the parents can sort of like sit and read them a book, or it's just so sweet. I love it so much, and the fact that I was able to add this in here is it's just a really, really nice addition. I have done this a couple of times in builds lately, and until infants were actually introduced, I hadn't even thought about putting a baby in a room with the parents, which is quite surprising to me. But anyway, with the introduction of infants, that is something that I've started doing. So anyway, this is the playroom. I was initially going to turn this into another bedroom, and then I figured there's really no need. There's no need to do it. We've got enough bedrooms for enough Sims. So this is the playroom. I really, really like how this turned out. I think it's fantastic. There's so much colour and life and clutter and just activities for the kids to get involved in here, and you know, all the adults in the house, the grandparents, the parents can come in here and hang out with the kids. They can help them with homework, they can read them a book, they can play toys with them. It's just a really, really nice space, and it is a room that I really enjoy adding in my builds when I have the space to do it. So when I do have the space to do it, I get really excited because I'm like, I get to do a playroom. And it's been a little while since I've done this. I believe the last time I did this was when I did a house with the Growing Together pack, I believe is the last time I did this. So it was just really, really nice. It's just such a lovely addition to a house as well, because it means that, again, gameplay wise, you've got so many opportunities in this house. You've got like so much to do, and I think it's wonderful. I ended up really, really liking this. There's toy boxes, there's toys. When I felt the need to add a rug, I added it. So there's like 3 rugs in here, I think. There's like an old computer in here that's probably been passed down through the generations, and it's still going. So they're like, yeah, let's give it to the kids. They're going to love it, you know, just to play whatever on. And the kids so love it. They so appreciate it. So it's really, really nice. I could have put like a brand new computer in here, and I just thought, no, that's not like really what I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to add like an older computer that's been handed down through the generations for the kids. There's a dollhouse in here as well, which I wasn't going to add initially, and then I figured, you know what, we've got the space, why the heck not? And then I just add some more decor pieces to the walls, and then that's that room finished. Okay, this is the upper floor. Now, don't look at the right hand side where that roof is clipping, because let me tell you something right now, that roof was causing me so much headache and stress while I was doing this build. I can't even tell you. The roof is actually in 3 different pieces to avoid as much clipping, but it's still clipped. So what I ended up having to do is segregate some of the house and add platforms so that the roof wasn't sticking into the rooms, and it's just a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I wish there was some sort of something built into the game where if the roof overlaps the interior of the house, it just disappears. Wouldn't that be amazing? You know, so that we don't have to add 10 pieces of roof just to avoid this happening. Anyway, I'm fully aware of it. It is what it is. Moving on. This is the teenagers' room. I went for a very, very blue theme in here. It's very dark. It's a little bit grungy. There's posters all over the wall. It's not messy necessarily, but there's a little bit of clutter here and there. They have everything that they could possibly need. They've got a TV. They've got a chair in here, and it's just their own space to sort of get away from the rest of the house. They're a little bit older than their siblings, so they probably use this room quite a lot as a bit of an escape route, a bit of an area where they can just relax and recharge. So I really, really like this room actually. It's one of those rooms where, again, with base game, it's relatively easily to put together. Anyway, and then we're moving on to the final room of the house. I know the bathrooms are currently empty, but I do decorate them off camera, so do not worry. Don't worry at all. Anyway, I end up adding bunk beds in here, and I end up going for like again, quite a bluey, but more like a pastel-y blue theme in here, because I wanted to tie in this beautiful cloud rug, which just reminds me of Toy Story. Every single time I use this, I'm like, Toy Story! So I love using it, and any opportunity that I get to use it, I do it. So again, a very, very big room. There's plenty of activities in here for the kids to get involved in. There's a TV, there's like a boom box on the side there. They've got everything they could possibly need. They've got like a little armchair here. There's artwork all over the wall. It's another solid room. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up because we are very nearly at the end of the video. But if you would like to download this house from the gallery, you can do. you search my Origin ID, it's RachelPedd, and you'll find it there. Tray files, as always, are linked in the description box down below. You can get them for free from Sim File Share. But thank you so much everyone for joining me here today. You all take care, and I will see you next time I post a video. Bye!